especially when we start talking about COVID restrictions and stuff, we're so focused on our freedoms, we lose sight of the mission.
You've raised a very important point here, Sheldon, and that is what is my mission, and what is and is this over here part of that mission, or is it a distraction from the mission? And I have seen Christians during this last 2 years who had a very productive ministry, and they're heading in the right direction, and then they have got refocused on fighting for our freedoms. And some of these freedoms are even freedom of assembly of Christians to worship in churches. Now that's a more controversial one within Christianity. Now, I did work in a country where there was no freedom of assembly for Christians, but they met this one pastor that I got to know. He had, I think it was 60 house churches, 50 or 60 house churches. These are quiet, below the radar churches that meet individually in homes, so that they're not, so the government tries to stomp out the people coming to this building here. And what happens is like Jello, and it's like whack-a-mole, except when you hit this mole here, there's 17 more moles pop up all over the place. And in the end, I think it was much more effective because the church was able to spread throughout communities that normally they wouldn't have been able to do so. And it was able to multiply free of government oversight, simply because they're already working under the radar here. But I think now here's one thing that I think is important, though. It's not a question of either or. Is this my mission? My personal mission here, or my job on a daily basis, has a lot to do with representing God online. And so I don't have much time at all to be distracted or diverted to fighting for political freedoms or freedom of speech and freedom of travel and assembly, though they are very close to my heart. But I do know that there's other people that do those things. Even politicians, there are Christian politicians, for example, that are there, and I think some of them are very good politicians who try and do the right thing in government. I don't have access. I don't have that platform, but there are people who do. And so I might want to support them and vote for those people, even though I'm not going to make public announcements and say, well, I think this party is better than that. Because quite frankly, I've been very disappointed in political parties. So I am not going to associate Christianity with a particular party, left or right, or Republican or conservative or liberal. That's a bad mistake, because when they go south, when they take a wrong turn, then your whole credibility takes a wrong turn as well. So I stay away from that, but recognize there are people in our culture who God does raise up to fight for freedom of assembly, freedom of speech, and so forth. That's not my mission, though. And I think Christians really need to think carefully about this distraction that can occur. And you can pay a big price if you're involved in a mission that God has not called you to. A big price in fruitfulness and productivity in the area you should have been involved in, while at the same time incurring all sorts of hammer blows from the government because you stepped into or handled it in the wrong way. Or maybe you had the right thing, you did it in the wrong way. Or maybe that wasn't your mission and you should have been supporting people this, or maybe you should have adapted this way. Not an easy discussion, and I'm certainly aware of the pros and cons on this, but primarily we need to figure out what our mission is and fight for that. I don't even like to use the word fight. I just say press on regardless. So if I'm in a situation in another country where it's absolutely illegal to represent God there, I could care less about the law in that particular way, but I do care a lot about carrying out the mission without getting hammered by the law.